The old, decaying mansion stood on the outskirts of town, shrouded in mystery and malevolence. For years, rumors circulated about the cursed doll that was said to be locked away in its attic. The townsfolk called her Annabelle, a name that sent shivers down the spine of anyone who heard it. It was said that Annabelle had once belonged to a young girl who had died under mysterious circumstances, and her spirit had been trapped inside the doll ever since. When Emily and her friends, Jake, Sarah and Mark, stumbled upon the mansion during a weekend hike, they couldn't resist the allure of exploring its haunted halls. The sun was setting, casting long, eerie shadows as they approached the front door. Emily felt a chill run down her spine as the ancient wood creaked open, revealing a dimly lit foyer filled with cobwebs and dust.
Are you sure about this?
Sarah whispered, clutching her flashlight tightly.
Come on, it's just an old house.
Jake replied, though his voice betrayed his unease.
Besides, we might find something cool.
As they ventured deeper into the mansion, the air grew colder and the sense of foreboding intensified. The walls seemed to close in around them, and strange noises echoed through the halls. Emily's heart raced as she led the way, her flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. The creaking floorboards beneath their feet seemed to groan in protest, and the air grew thicker with each step. An unsettling feeling of being watched clung to them, making their skin prickle with fear. Emily couldn't shake the sensation that they were not alone.
Do you hear that?
Mark asked, his voice barely a whisper. They all stopped and strained to listen. Faint whispers seemed to float through the air, unintelligible but undeniably eerie. Sarah clung to Emily's arm, her eyes wide with terror. Finally, they reached the attic. The door was locked, but Mark managed to pry it open with a crowbar he had found in the basement. Inside, the air was thick with dust and the stench of decay. Broken furniture and old trunks were scattered around. But at the center of the room, sitting on a rotting wooden chair, was Annabelle. The doll was a grotesque sight, with its cracked porcelain face, matted hair, and tattered dress. Its glassy eyes seemed to follow them as they moved closer. Emily felt a wave of nausea wash over her, but she couldn't look away.
Is this it?
Mark asked, his voice trembling.
Is this the cursed doll?
Yeah, it has to be.
Jake replied, though he sounded far less certain than before. Emily reached out to touch Annabelle, but as her fingers brushed against the doll's cold surface, a jolt of electricity surged through her, and she recoiled in pain. The room seemed to grow darker, and a sinister whisper filled the air.
Get out!
The voice hissed.
Leave now, or suffer the consequences.
Panic set in, and the friends hurriedly left the attic, slamming the door behind them. But as they made their way back through the mansion, it became clear that something was terribly wrong. The house seemed to shift and change, trapping them in an endless maze of corridors and staircases. Desperate and terrified, they finally found themselves back in the foyer, only to discover that the front door was now locked. No matter how hard they tried, they couldn't break it open. Emily's mind raced as she tried to think of a way out, but the sense of dread was overwhelming.
We have to go back to the attic,
she said, her voice shaking.
Maybe we can find something there to help us.
Reluctantly, the others agreed, and they retraced their steps to the attic. But when they opened the door, Annabelle was gone. In her place was a single blood-stained note. "You cannot escape," it read. "You belong to me now." A cold breeze swept through the room, extinguishing their flashlights. In the pitch darkness, they heard the sound of footsteps approaching, and the sinister whisper returned.
One by one, you will fall.
Emily felt a cold hand grip her shoulder, and she screamed as the darkness closed in around her. The last thing she saw was Annabelle's haunting face, her eyes gleaming with malevolent delight. Hours passed like a fever dream. Emily awoke, groggy and disoriented, lying on the cold attic floor. Her friends were scattered around her, unconscious but alive. She shook them awake, their eyes filled with confusion and fear.
We need to get out of here.
Jake said, his voice barely above a whisper.
There's got to be another way.
They searched the attic, finding nothing but old furniture and forgotten memories. The shadows seemed to dance around them, playing tricks on their minds. Every creak, every whisper sent them into a frenzy of panic. Then, Emily spotted a hidden door behind a stack of crates. It led to a narrow, winding staircase that descended into darkness. With no other options, they descended, the steps groaning under their weight. The staircase led them to a hidden basement, a place that seemed untouched by time. The walls were lined with ancient books and strange symbols, and the air was thick with a sense of malevolence. In the center of the room stood an altar, and on it lay Annabelle.
Why is she here?
Sarah asked, her voice trembling.
It doesn't matter.
Mark replied.
We need to destroy her.
As they approached the altar, the room seemed to come alive. The walls pulsed with a dark energy, and the shadows deepened, writhing and twisting like living things. Annabelle's eyes seemed to glow with an inner light, and a sinister laughter filled the air.
You think you can destroy me?
The voice taunted.
I am eternal. I am your worst nightmare.
Emily steeled herself, reaching for the doll. The moment her fingers touched Annabelle, a surge of dark energy shot through her, and she was thrown across the room. Pain coursed through her body, and she felt an overwhelming presence invade her mind.
Emily!
Jake shouted, rushing to her side. But it was too late. Annabelle had taken hold of her. Emily's eyes glowed with an unnatural light, and a twisted smile spread across her face. She stood, her movements jerky and unnatural, and began to speak in a voice that was not her own.
You cannot escape your fate,
she said, her voice echoing with the malevolence of the doll.
You will all be mine.
Mark, Sarah, and Jake backed away.
Can you find
Terror etched on their faces.
here.
The room seemed to close in on them, the shadows growing darker and more oppressive. Annabelle's laughter filled the air, a chilling sound that echoed through their very souls. In a desperate bid to save Emily, Jake grabbed an ancient book from the shelves, hoping to find a way to break the curse. The pages were filled with strange symbols and incantations, but one passage caught his eye. It spoke of a ritual that could bind the spirit of the doll, trapping it forever.
We have to do this. It's our only chance.
As he began to recite the incantation, the room seemed to react violently. The air grew thick with malevolent energy, and the shadows lashed out at them. Annabelle, in Emily's body, advanced on them with a murderous intent. Sarah and Mark held her off, using anything they could find as weapons, while Jake continued the ritual. The incantation grew louder, the words resonating with a power that seemed to come from the very depths of the mansion. With a final, desperate cry, Jake completed the ritual. A blinding light filled the room, and Annabelle let out a piercing scream. The malevolent energy was sucked back into the doll, and Emily collapsed to the floor, unconscious but free. The room fell silent, the oppressive darkness lifting. They had done it. Annabelle was bound, her spirit trapped within the doll once more. But the victory felt hollow, the scars of their ordeal etched deeply into their souls. As they carried Emily out of the mansion, a sense of foreboding lingered. Annabelle's curse had been contained, but the evil within her was far from defeated. The doll remained in the hidden basement, waiting for the next unfortunate soul to stumble upon her. Years passed, and the mansion fell into even greater disrepair. But the legend of Annabelle endured, a chilling tale passed down through generations. The cursed doll remained a symbol of fear and malevolence, a reminder that some horrors can never truly be vanquished. In a quiet, unassuming town miles away, a young girl named Lily found an old, tattered doll at a flea market. Its porcelain face was cracked, and its eyes seemed to gleam with a strange light. She brought it home, unaware of the darkness that lay within. That night, as Lily slept, she heard a whisper in the darkness, a sinister voice that sent shivers down her spine.
Hello, Lily.
My name is Annabelle.
The curse had found a new victim, and the cycle of horror began anew.